Commissioner Summey, will you give the invocation, please?
Yes, bow your heads, please. Father God, we come to you tonight asking that you lead us, direct us in all of the decisions that to be done. Help us to always remember that following you is the ultimate goal that we need to do. We ask these things, God, in your name. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Bill Anderson.
Present.
Ron Harrell.
Here.
Richard Kirkland.
Here.
T.J. Langford.
Here.
Chad Leeny. Adam Reynolds.
Present.
Bill Shadden.
Here.
Paulette Summey.
Present.
Roger Thomas. Present. Chris White.
Here.
Nine present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda to include the tabled item that we had from last month about the county planner.
Where would you like that placed on the agenda, Commissioner?
Should we address it at the beginning, or, I mean, is the preference of,
It's got to be removed from the table, and that's what you're doing.
I'm asking
Amending the
to-
agenda and removing from the table.
yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Could I get a roll call on that, please?
Bill Anderson.
Aye.
Ron Harrell.
Aye.
Richard Kirkland. T.J. Langford.
Aye.
Chad Leeny. Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Chris White.
Aye.
The amended agenda and the table resolution is moved, and Mr. Clerk and Angela, I'm going to add that 527 I'm going to call it 7A. We'll do that before public comment and after the last resolution. 825-7A. Eight 25-1, Commissioner minutes for the July 28, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Anderson, a second from Commissioner Harrell. Is there any corrections to the minutes? All those in favor of accepting those minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes will be accepted. 825-2, no public applications. We do have some in your packet. You can see those. Do I have a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Langford to approve these notary publics. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Harrell. Is there any discussion on these? All those in favor of accepting these and approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Those will be approved. 825-3, trustee monthly report. I have a motion from Commissioner Wiseman to approve this report, a second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any question on this report? All those in favor of accepting say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That report will be accepted. 825-4, Director of Finance report. You have that before you. Have a motion from Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Anderson. Is there any discussion or questions on this report? All those in favor of accepting it, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That report will be accepted. 825-5. Be it resolved, Monroe County Board of Commissioners meeting in regular session, 8/25/2020, the following amendment for the purchase of vehicles of the Monroe County Sheriff Department be made in the Monroe County Sheriff Department budget for the fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $4,000. What's the pleasure of the group?
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Langford. Is there a second? Have a second from Commissioner Wiseman. Is there any discussion?
What kind of vehicle is this? I'm sorry. It says military reserve vehicle.
Good question.
This, the money that's from the reserve is from when they sell military surplus vehicles, it goes into that reserve. And so they can only buy certain equipment and vehicles with that money from military reserve items. So that money was reserved from last fiscal year's revenue, and they're just pulling it out of that reserve to use the funds from those sales.
I guess my question is, what type of vehicle is it?
I don't know what they're purchasing with it.
He's been looking at some used Tahoes that other counties have been selling. I don't know if that's it or not.
Okay.
It says 2 from the city of Lenore City.
Actually, I spoke to him, excuse me, but it's actually, I think, a couple of Crown Vics, police cars.
He didn't list in the letter what type of vehicle it was, just they're from Lenore City.
It's, especially military Crown Vic, I don't know.
Any further discussion or questions? Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shedd,
Aye.
Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris White.
Aye. Motion carries. 525-5A, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, August 25, 2020, the following amendment to Monroe County Engineering IT for miscellaneous IT supplies be made in the budget for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $100.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Summey, a second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shedd,
Aye.
Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris White.
Motion carries. 825-5B, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, August 25th, 2020, the following amendment for the County Buildings Department be made in the general fund budget for fiscal year 2021 to record an award of the safety grant from Tennessee Risk Management to the help reduction of workers' compensation claims in the amount of $384.
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Harrell to accept this grant, second from Commissioner Anderson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shedd, Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris White.
Motion carries. 825-C, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, August 25th, 2020, the following budget amendment in economic development be made for the general fund budget for the fiscal year 2020 to record the grant for the TVA grant of the purchase of 2 laptops for $3,500. Do I have a motion to accept this grant?
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Thomas, a second from Commissioner Summey. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shedd, Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris White.
Motion carries. 825-5D, Be it resolved, the Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, August 25, 2020, the following budget amendment for the Monroe County government be made in the general fund budget for the Highway Department fiscal year 2021. This is to record the award of funding to the governor's local government support CARES grant.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, just, comment, how is it decided on where it went?
Yeah, the allocation wise.
What we felt, it was 1.1 million overall, and what we wanted to do, we wanted to reach as many, of course, we discussed this in budget, and this was, the county commission actually approved the resolution that was submitted to the state that had most of these down back when that was required to even submit. The majority of it is spent on highway department, ambulances, and water lines. And that was from a former resolution probably back in May, June, something like that. 3/4 of it, we wanted to make sure we touched as many tax-paying citizens as we can. That was the reason the highway department, water lines, and public safety was the focus. We had to spend some on COVID. One of the categories that was required was building updates, repairs, etc. It was a certain set of categories that we had to fall into to spend the money. We had some requirements, but that was, I believe, Ms. Hicks, what was that resolution? It was May or June.
It was permission to apply for it.
Right.
But we had to do a preliminary allocation at that time. And after we did that, they increased it phenomenally.
Are these, new water lines?
Yes,
3 of them.
yes. And one of those, and I think we've mentioned it before, we've had some of those good people come before the commission from Chestnut Valley. We keep a running list in the office of all the water line requests, and since they have been on the list and have approached the commission, they were one of the first ones that we looked at.
What's up?
Go ahead, Brian. I just wanted to say on the scissor lift, that will be exclusively, well, it could be used anywhere in the county, but the Justice Center is the primary place that that's going to go because changing lights and doing some of the things over there, that's a necessity. So we was able to allocate some money for that. That's just one of those things that we could use there. Mr. Harrell?
Stone building.
Stone building.
This building.
The stone building, and that is not set, quote, set in stone. We've been approached for years about bringing the stone building up into some type of usable facility. And I'm referring to the old health department. And we have allocated some money for a study on it. There's been no committed funds to any renovating or anything like that. Ms. Stakely has gotten the building registered on the National Historic Register Society, so we could possibly get some grant funding there, but that is just if we wanted to go down that road. But that money, that $80,000, could be used for courthouse, and that brings up some of that money that is in there. Basically was used and will be used, and thank Ms. Teresa showed, obviously we're sitting in a wonderful room tonight to showcase some of her hard work for the last few months. And so that's kind of how those categories were taken. We've got to do some things. We can use some of that courthouse money for our brick restoration because that grant does not cover, but just a little bit, Brian, about the brick remortar. So we can use that for a lot of different things, but that's the two categories that I've got. This building and possibly the old health department.
And it's imperative that we stabilize the stone on the stone building. It's the one and only left in the state of Tennessee.
Is that ours or the city? Is that
Pardon?
the county or city building?
It's a
County building.
County
County building on county property. Whereas in front of it, the old city hall, which is now CASA, is city. So it's very confusing. Very small property lines there. Any other questions? And you will see, and Ms. Gale is working diligently, you will see another set of CARES money come through before long that we'll be asking some input how to allocate that money to. Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shannon, Paulette Summers,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Foster.
Aye. Motion carries. 825-5E, a resolution grant for approval from Monroe County Archives to submit an application to the Tennessee State Library and Archives to be used to purchase shelving for the WIP building. Whereas Monroe County Archives Department through the Monroe County Government requests permission to submit an application to the Tennessee State Library and Archives. Whereas the grant is to be used to purchase shelving for archives equipment when they move to the WIP building. And whereas Monroe County Archives Director will follow proper procedure for this application, which will be funded 100% by the state of Tennessee and will not require a match from the Monroe County government. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. A motion for Commissioner Langford, a second for Commissioner Anderson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shannon,
Aye.
Paulette Summers,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Foster.
Motion carries. 825-5F, a resolution to grant approval from Monroe County Government to submit an application to the state of Tennessee for local government coronavirus relief funds, CRF, to assist with the financial impact of COVID-19. Whereas the Monroe County Government requests permission to submit an application to the state of Tennessee local government coronavirus funds CARES Act, and whereas in order to assist with the financial impact of COVID-19 on local governments. Whereas Monroe County Mayor will follow proper procedures for the application of this grant in the total amount of $695,355, which will not require a match in funding. And whereas Monroe County meets all qualifications to participate in this grant to assist with the financial impact of COVID-19.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Anderson, a second from Commissioner Harrell. Is there any discussion?
So how did the figure 695,000 come about?
That was just what the state on this,
There's, on the last page, is a list that's showing.
Okay.
right, and that was the same with the cities. The cities, the 4 municipalities get a share, and that's the same, Joe, that it was on the 1.1 million.
Right.
I don't know how they, I
It's
assume
just
it's
their
population based.
looks like population
Yeah.
based to me.
Any other questions? And I want to thank Gail for assisting, but this has been a little more tedious database to navigate through. Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shannon, Paulette Summers,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Foster.
Motion carries. 825-G, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session August 25th, 2020, the following amendment for the Monroe County Archives be made in the general fund for the fiscal year 2021. This is to record the award of a grant through the Governor's Local Government Support CARES Grant in the amount of $4,259.61. Do I have a motion to accept this grant for archives? Have a motion from Commissioner Thomas, a second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Bill Shannon, Paulette Summers,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Foster.
Motion carries. 825-6, budget amendments for the school department, Board of Education. You have those before you. What is the pleasure on these school board budget amendments?
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Harrell. Have a second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any questions?
Is this one part, you said you moved 176,000 committed to other, what was that other committee?
The 176 is items that they had reserved at the end of the year.
Oh, so it's money left over?
Yes.
No.
They reserved that money for projects that they didn't get finished, and they're taking it out of reserve now so they can finish the project.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell, Richard Kirkland, T.J. Langford, Adam Reynolds, Bill Shannon, Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Weisman.
Motion carries. 825-7, a resolution of Monroe County Commission to pursue the potential of establishing a long-term lease of individual hangar spaces with hangars to be constructed by suitable tenants at such tenants' cost with ownership and hangar to be vested in Monroe County upon completion of a long-term lease. Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Langford,
Second.
second from Commissioner Summey. Now, questions and discussion on this resolution. This is,
I know we presented this
Yes.
last time.
yes,
What was the revenue base for Monroe County? I mean, what was the rental? Was it going towards the, to the county general fund?
yes, just like fuel or the current hangar lease would go into the general fund.
And the person building the hangar would be responsible for the construction of that?
Yeah,
that
Mr.
hangar.
Chairman, may I be
Yes.
recognized?
Council,
Yeah, so this, all this does is give authorization to pursue those arrangements. The details are as yet to be determined. I would recommend that a committee of, at minimum, a committee of the commission, meet to have a workshop to discuss those details. What was talked about last month by Mr. McCosh was a 15-cent per square foot amount of rent. And of course, then you've got to come into all of the issues of who would be eligible, how big are they going to be, what are your maintenance responsibilities, regular insurance, provision of documentation on it, restrictions on what activities can take place within or around the hangar, all those sorts of things that we would need to confer further upon in consultation with Mr. McCosh so that we can be educated a little bit better about what would work best in his estimation.
Thank you.
So they were responsible for the building?
yes,
So the
Yes.
county's not?
right.
The individual is responsible until, for so many years, right, Mr. McCoskey?
Yes.
And for all maintenance.
Yes.
And again, this is a resolution to pursue, not a contract, obviously.
Okay.
Jerome, Tom, we just went through tie-down contracts and our current county hangar contracts, trying to tighten those up and clean those up and everything, and there would be something very similar and very complex of something at this scale.
May we make an addendum to this resolution of forming a committee to address the other part, that, or does that need to come in a separate resolution?
You don't need a resolution to have a workshop or form a committee. All this is doing is saying, yes, we're going to pursue these arrangements. So you can pass that and then say, okay, in furtherance of our pursuit of these arrangements, given the resolution that we just passed, I recommend that A, B, and C be on a committee to confer with Mr. McCosh and myself and figure out what we want to bring back. And then once we formulate a contract, we'll bring it back to you for full approval by the full commission.
Okay, I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
got everything in line.
Yeah.
Would that fall under buildings and ground committee maybe?
Well, the committee, could it be the full commission, it
Could
could
be
be an
the full
appointed
commission,
commission, it could be the airport committee, I mean, there's
Yeah.
several
Any
committees that can fall on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell, Richard Kirkland, T.J. Lake, Adam Reynolds, Bill Shadden, Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Weisman.
Motion carries, and we'll be moving forward with a workshop. 825-7A, formally Resolution 728-26. That was a resolution of the Monroe County Commission to ratify the hiring of Laura Smith as Monroe County Planner and approve the continuation of municipal and other funding arrangements for the said office. I do appreciate the commission for tabling this. Obviously, there was an issue that one of the municipalities after, and I emphasize the word after, that Ms. Smith was hired, but between that point and the commission and my accident, that there was a situation where Von Orr chose to go in a different direction for their planning sources. And I thought it was prudent by this body to consider that, and we're going to bring that back up tonight, and this to decide what to do with this. Ms. Summey, you asked to remove from the table. What is your recommendation on this?
We've had a letter from Kim Bivens, who is our Register of Deeds, explaining the necessity of these things. And I feel like to be very safe and guard the county itself, we do need to have a planner. I'm sorry that these things happened, and she was hired before we knew that Von Orr was pulling out. So my recommendation would be to, is she fully vested as far as the county with all the insurance and everything that?
I will say this, and I don't want to get into HR issues, but she has chose to decline some benefits.
Okay. So it may not be as expensive as we first felt like it might be with the city of Von Orr pulling out.
Yes.
So,
Well, that's true, but
It's still 3/4 of the county paying for
true, but then what you would have to consider is down the road, if open enrollment next year, we fund that position as if Von Orr is still contributing that portion, and then open enrollment next year, I would like to take the county's insurance. And as a county employee, we pay 100% of that. So I don't want to speak for the main portion of the board, but I think the only fair way to do that is the cost share between those municipalities. I don't know how the other board members feel about it, but I think that the salary could be reduced by the amount that Von Orr's not contributing.
I believe it's $5,500, isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Von
Richard.
Orr's.
Yeah, $5,500 was Von Orr's contribution.
So in reality, the county would be increasing their input up to $5,500, is that correct? Or would it come from the Von Orr would not be committed?
Well, it comes from the fund balance outside of the cost savings from the benefits.
I guess my question would be, is Von Orr residents gonna have to pay for the services? Be charged by the county, since they're not, their city government's not covering them?
No, they would not be coming to us for service. They were gonna have their own plan.
Well, if you're buying a house and you're buying a plot, or whatever it may be, the Von Orr, it has to be run to a planner.
Right.
During the closing, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, there's certain things that have to happen, is that correct, Adam?
Yes.
So it requires a planner sometimes, and when you're trying to close on a property, that's gonna delay the closing and that type of thing like that.
Absolutely.
And so that then you have a non-invested part of the community that is probably one of the wealthiest, as Ms. Paulette has mentioned before, not giving to the rest of the, the community. So,
They've decided to go with East Tennessee Development District and staying with Ms. Hawk that has gone to work with East Tennessee Development District.
so they have their
Yeah.
own development.
Yes, so they're staying with her.
Okay,
And that was, she left the county stating that it was personal reasons that she was leaving. And then she went to work for East Tennessee Development District.
Yeah, East Tennessee Development District provide that service for you as a planner, municipality or county-wise.
right.
Uh,
I remember us discussing that part of it, but I just want to make sure that, that we're not being,
Yeah, they charge, they'll do a contract, they'll do it by the hour, by the meeting, to actually save quite a bit of money.
okay.
Some of the concerns with the customer service side of it.
Sure. I think that's the biggest part for the citizens of Monroe County to realize that planner is the person that is helping you close on your properties, loans, or whatever it may be, so.
And that was the decision of the city government of Von Orr
Sure.
to pull out.
So I guess back to my original question, the money would come back from the general fund because that $5,500 would not be there from Bonner.
Yes, but this fiscal year, the cost savings on the benefits that was declined would take care of that. However, Mr. Reynolds brings up a good point, that would just be for this fiscal year.
Your annual enrollment's on fiscal year or calendar year?
The plan starts over October first.
Yeah. But she's a new hire.
She's a new hire, so she can't change.
The difference in her benefits offsets the difference
Of that?
in the city of Honor.
Okay.
Just
As
this
long
year,
as she
right?
stays in that position, she has declined that particular benefit, and she stays in that position.
Thank you.
Have a motion, is there a second to approve?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Thomas. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Joe Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Harrell,
Aye.
Richard Kirkland,
No,
T.J. Langford,
No,
Adam Wills,
Aye.
Bill Shadden,
Aye.
Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Roger Thomas, Chris Weisman. Seven ayes,
if I could just make one more comment. I think we have to be careful with what we're looking at as far as the time somebody denies or does not want that coverage, because, that could open up Pandora's box for every employee in the county says, well, I don't take insurance, why don't you just pay me more? That's just a comment.
Thank you. 825-8, public comment. I believe we have some guests tonight. Director of Maintenance, Physical Plant from Monroe County Board of Education, Mr. Philip Carroll, is going to introduce his guest for public comment.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. First of all, I want to say thank you on behalf of Monroe County Schools, Dr. McClendon, our school board. We want to say thank you for allowing Train to be here tonight to present to you our Monroe County Schools facilities upgrades and energy efficiency program that we would like to partake of. We hope to maybe get into a little bit of discussion. I know we do have time limits, but we would definitely like to get as much information to you as quickly as possible. And I will turn it over to Ms. Nancy McBee and to Mr. Evan Baker.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy McGee, and this is Owen Carter. We're with Train Energy Services. What we do, I've been told we've got 5 to 8 minutes. And there's a ton of information here. We're not going to go through all this information. We sort of reorganized it and made it so we can get through it quickly. We do infrastructure upgrade projects all over the state of Tennessee, all over the United States, lots of the school systems and municipalities. And the goal is to put together projects that save enough utilities to pay for themselves. And so you're upgrading the schools without having to get money elsewhere. We've been working with Dr. McClendon and Philip Carroll for quite some time now. We've done a high-level utility analysis to see if there does exist the opportunity to do a project with the school system that will pay for itself through the savings it generates. If you take a look at this, there's a cover letter to all of you guys that basically summarizes what we've done and what we're looking to do. There's the next tab is a letter to proceed, which is what we're looking for the school board to issue to us at this point, which lets us go to the next step in this process. The next thing after that is a one-page summary of what's been done, where we are, and what the snapshot is of the school system currently. And then there's a little presentation, which that's what this is. The presentation that we're hoping will be 5 to 8 minutes is right here. Anything that you want to dig into, we've got a plain English section, student engagement, because there's some student-centered things that we can do to help with, CTE education, some things involving STEM careers. There's details on what we do in the next step, the audit. There's a whole list of Tennessee trained references, what a project like this would do for your environment, and obviously why train. But we will dig into this abbreviated version here. So basically, why would the school system want to look at doing something where they don't need capital? So tight budgets, operating costs continue to go up, hard to get capital funds to replace heating and air conditioning equipment, lighting, etc. Lots of old equipment in the school system that really needs to be upgraded. Newer equipment is a whole lot more efficient than the existing equipment. Repairs keep going up, the cost of replacement, etc. These projects, they're called performance contracting. And this is a definition by the Department of Energy for performance contracting. Basically, you're using guaranteed savings from your operational budget to fund capital upgrades. And it's financed over a period of time. What is performance contracting? This is one of my favorite things to let Owen discuss or talk to.
Thanks. So, in the state of Tennessee, TCA, so for years in Title 12, local governments have been using professional services to accomplish this program. And prior to 2013, an ESCO, Energy Services Company like Train, would have had the contract through the local government on behalf of the Board of Education. And in 2013, they amended Section 49 under school procurement to allow the LEA to use professional services for the same scopes. Still has to come back to the funding body for approval and for funding. Would put the LEAs on equal footing with the local governments, allowing them to use that type of process. So.
And how does it work? It's not going to replace their operating budget. It's not going to replace their capital budget. It just provides a third revenue stream for them to do things with. The next step in our process doesn't actually have a cost to it, but very smartly, Dr. McClendon and Philip wanted to have us come to you and make sure you all understand what it is they're looking at wanting to do. Because basically what they're wanting to do is reallocate excess utility dollars and do upgrades. And all this guaranteed by Trane. And where do you get the savings? Electricity costs, water costs, gas costs, maintenance costs, etc. And all that goes together to put together a project that pays for, replacement of heating and air, lighting, control systems, plumbing, weatherization, etc. TVA offers some rebates in some cases for things that you do that improve energy. Also, there's the Tennessee Department of Education houses the Energy Efficient Schools Initiative, which is a group that does funding for projects like this in K through 12 school systems across the state. They currently have funds available at a 0.5% interest rate.
Yeah, up to $5 million for a 16-year term at 0.5%. It's almost like free money.
When would you want to use performance contracting? When you've got upgrades you need and you don't have a way to fund them. Like I said, no money in the budget to do the upgrades, capital is limited. You'd like to have a comprehensive solution that uses excess utility spend to make upgrades, and it's all budget neutral. Would this work for Monroe County Schools? This gets to the feasibility study that we've done. We've done a high-level utility analysis on the 12 school buildings, and we've determined that there is a potential to do a guaranteed utility savings project. And basically, this is the most important slide in here. Currently, the school system this is based on 2019-2020 utility data. Currently operating at $1.72 a square foot. We have a very conservative target of $1.25 a square foot. And you do the math, it's $452,000 of excess savings that if reallocated and put into an infrastructure upgrade project, you can
How are we gonna save that almost 50 cents there?
through replacing old worn-out heating and air conditioning equipment, putting LED lighting throughout all the schools, parking lots, etc., weatherization, possible window replacements, low-flow plumbing installations where applicable.
Motion lights, lights don't come on.
Motion sensors, exactly. Well, and if you want to dig into that, we can go back to, there's a section in here that has a list of the things that we dig into. There's been school systems where we've replaced 900 CRT computer screens with LCD computer screens. It reduces the electricity costs, less heat dissipation.
Who pays for the replacement part, the county or y'all?
You do.
We do, right?
Yeah, so what happens is the savings basically gets used as debt service capacity. And so, like for instance, if you use the EESI.
What's the cost of replacing everything versus your savings?
Well, that would be yet to be determined. It would be determined in the next step. With that kind of savings available to you, you could fund anywhere between $6 and $9 million worth of upgrades, and they would be paid for through that savings stream. That would be financed over a 15 to 20-year term. Those savings would fund those improvements.
Is that a guarantee?
That is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if
But
we,
I'm not-
go ahead.
I'm not sure that we're answering your question.
No,
Yeah.
because, the county's gonna have to pay for it, I understand that, you answered that part.
Well,
But I don't know how much it's gonna cost, I'm curious of what it's gonna cost to replace all the lights with LED lights and stuff like that
so
versus your savings.
So as Nancy is saying, our next step in the process is to do what's called a preliminary audit. It's equivalent of an ASHRAE level 2 audit. And basically, we do that audit on our dime and bring back to the school board and county commission, hey, this is what we found, okay? This, here's all the data, work with Philip Carroll and Dr. McClendon to put together a program that makes sense, because not everything will fund from energy savings. And so the basic concept is we put together a program that's cash flow neutral. So it doesn't impede on their budget, it doesn't impede on you guys asking for new money. It's basically maintenance of effort on the utility budget, and they're taking a portion of that utility budget and allocating it toward the debt service on the program. And back to a slide that Nancy showed early on. So, it's not going to replace their normal capital budget. It's not going to replace their operating budget. But a way for you to think about it is there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that you can do that the savings will cover the cost over time. And you get a company like Train that'll underwrite those savings. It's kind of like, why would you spend capital to do stuff that you could get done really for free? That's the basic
The
concept.
long-term savings would be beneficial to the county. It wouldn't be initial savings up front.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
if I may speak.
Go ahead, Mr.
We did have Knox County, school district, the person that sort of mirrors, Philip's position, Train, had them, we made a relationship, they came in. He said that they actually did see the savings, actually it was more even than the prediction. One of the things he cautioned us about was that if you get the loan, make sure you're taking the savings and paying it toward it. He said like in Knox County, they had even more savings, but instead of utilizing that, they just put it at the end of their debt and they use that in a different way, a different capacity. And I think they did this study even with Knox County's municipalities, the municipal district of Knox County too, and kind of the same thing. So he did tell us that, and we can, if we get to have a workshop, we can bring those people in so you can ask active users who've done this program about that.
But Train pays for the initial going through and checking to see what all needs changed, right?
Yes, but there's a separate phase, and because I'm trying to build a bridge with both bodies, I don't want to make a move without having a meeting or a joint meeting. Like I think this is the second time some of the commissioners have actually been privy to this presentation. But I just want to make sure as we move forward in 2020, 2021, both bodies are walking in lockstep about what the left and the right hand is doing. So that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah, and as far as the cost, this is the process, just like those blocks. Today is that purple box. We're giving you the feasibility results, what we see is the potential opportunity. The next step, there is no financial commitment for that next step. But as Dr. McClendon shared, we don't want to go invest a ton of time and engineering resources in all the schools if the county commission isn't on board.
I think it's something we need to look at, and I guess I make a motion that we have a workshop, if we could, as a school board and a commission, to study this more. I know we only had 5 minutes here today.
Second.
Brian, second in that, or Joe?
Well, he's gonna say.
Okay, all right, I've got a motion and a second for a workshop, but Brian's got some discussion.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have some questions.
Okay.
What kind of technology are you putting in the schools now? Just the regular HVAC cooling towers, or what are you doing? Or the newer, more modern systems?
It's gonna depend, you know.
It is, it's gonna depend on what's there and how you can marry that up with current energy code and what makes sense. Because here's the thing, to do a wholesale renovation on a school and modernize the system is expensive.
Well, we're looking to make 30 and 40-year decisions here. We're not here to look at 5 years from now.
Yeah.
We want to make a 30 to 40-year decision that's going to last. And continue to have a relationship with Train that will continue to service that equipment and be with us that long. And Train's been in business for how many years?
We're a century old.
Okay, so, I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, having a long-term relationship and building that relationship over a course of time. You showed a $452,000 a year savings off of just a $35,000, looking down, you know.
Right.
So, as far as how many, I'm sorry, I don't know this, but how many schools do we actually have?
12.
We have 12. So you're looking at 2 to 3, what are you looking at, 2 to 3 million a school?
Well, you have to work this backwards. So our audit, or audits, and we'll back up to that in a minute, is gonna give you data, and now what we're doing is we're doing it in a CapEx budget style. So you end up with like 4 columns. This is what'll fund fund and a budget neutral energy program. This is what you ought to be allocating capital funds for now. In other words, here's all the stuff that we found that's really beyond its useful life, and it's kind of on the edge. Sure. Here's what you ought to be budgeting for 3 to 5 years out. Here's what you ought to be budgeting for 6 to 10 years out. I'll give you guys a quick snapshot of one we're just doing, and we're doing an internal review tomorrow. Neighboring school system of yours, $44 million in need. About 14 million of that will fund through the energy savings, and the rest of that needs to be budgeted out over time. And so what happens in this process, Train comes in on our own dime to do a preliminary audit. By law, those are called pre-proposal costs. We cannot ask you to pay for that. We invest a lot in that audit because we want to make sure you all have a clear financial picture of where you would be heading before you made a financial commitment. Because the next commitment is what's called an investment grade audit. And that has a cost, a hard cost, that you would be agreeing on the front end to either reimburse Train for directly if you didn't proceed with the program, or it would be rolled in as an audit cost, as a cost of the program. What we do a preliminary audit to the point where we're prepared to say the investment grade audit doesn't support our preliminary audit, we'll pay for the investment grade audit. So we take the risk off of the schools and take the risk off of you. We have a very formidable staff and a very good track record.
So once you get into that audit, that more in-depth audit that we would be responsible for, what do you base that cost on? Is it a percentage of the total project itself, or?
No,
Or is it just time, just time?
You'll have a hard cost of the audit up front because there'll be a defined scope based on our preliminary audit. And to put a perspective, that audit can be from actually zero if you were just going to do lighting, because we do an investment grade lighting audit anyways, or it could be as high as 17, 18 cents a foot, depending on what you were looking to get out of that investment grade audit.
Okay. So with these, are there any units on top of roofs?
Yes.
Yes.
How many?
That's quite about all
We've
there.
got 27 at Sequoia, 17 at Telco High School. We've
So,
got several on Sweetwater High School.
so when you take those off the roof, what happens?
We wouldn't, I don't think, take them off the roof.
Yeah, we would look at the design of each school and compare all the different options. We do obviously, pull
Okay.
on.
You don't have to explain all that. My point is if you start taking off these older units off the roofs, you're gonna get into some retrofitting and roofing issues and other things that are unforeseen.
We had that on our side.
There are additional
On our
costs,
business.
yeah, so.
We
It seems to
We're
think
getting
about
a
it.
30 to 40 year, looking at 30 to 40 years on this. How long are you gonna keep up the equipment that long?
Well, typical life cycle, actual life cycle on equipment, you're gonna run 20 to 22 years. And so you wanna know that. In other words, there's not HVAC equipment out there, commercial grade HVAC equipment that you're gonna buy that's gonna be 40 and 50 year life cycle equipment. You're gonna pay way.
I ain't seen many that last 20 years there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm in the salvage business, I buy it all day long.
I think we do have a request through a motion to invite a workshop, and Dr. McClendon suggests having a joint workshop between the BOE and the commission. I got a motion and a second. Can I get a voice vote on that? All in favor of doing that? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Mr. Carroll, for coming tonight. And we will be getting jointly together, coordinating that day when you folks can come and when the school board can come. Thank you. Have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, just a moment, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clark, will you change, it will not matter, will not change the vote, but it'll clear my conscience. Will you change my vote, please, on 825-7A, please? To nay. just a matter of principle, on 827-7A, or 825-7A, will you change my vote, please, to nay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Motion to adjourn. Second. Meeting adjourned.